evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Zimbabweans, wherever you may be. I hope that your Sunday has been peaceful and that I hope my sound is working. Can you hear me, Wilbert?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Cool. And that you're getting ready for Monday work. Right. I'd like to welcome Wilbert to the show, as usual. Okay. And welcome. Hello, Wilbert. Hope you had a good weekend and that you're ready for work tomorrow.
Yes, I had a nice weekend, and
good.
The best is coming on Friday, of course.
Yeah, and I think, as most Zimbabweans will know, that on Friday, I was sent a message at about 8 o'clock in the morning to announce the passing of Robert Gabriel Mugabe, our first dictator of Zimbabwe. He passed in Singapore, in a hospital there, where he had been for approximately 2 months at the expense of the Zimbabwean people. And we will discuss why he was in Singapore, okay, and whether he was hero or villain. And over to you, Wilbert.
Good evening, Zimbabweans. Good evening, Ali. Thanks again for hosting the discussion. I think this is an important time in our history because we are a country in serious trouble, and it's a pity that have given up the fight to change the miserable situation we find ourselves in. And to me, the death of Robert Gabriel Mugabe was good news in the very sense of the word, that he was one individual who truly represented what was bad about Zimbabwe. And he was one individual who also believed that he was infallible and immortal, almost. And that is why he imposed himself and his ZANU-PF colleagues on the nation. And so his passing away reminded him and all his other dictators, friends that are left behind, that they are not immortal. As for being fallible, they are fallible. The only problem is that the political system does not allow the ordinary Zimbabwean to have a minimum say and tell them that they have failed and they should get out of power. And that is why it is important for us to discuss this issue that Sadi has raised. Was Mugabe a villain, a dictator, or was he a hero? And I think that is an issue that should be discussed by every Zimbabwean with the view of clearly defining what is and what is a hero. I don't know whether, Sally, you are ready to start or you want me to start. Hello?
Well, but hello, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't know, everything's just a bit messed up. Okay, with I don't know if it's my laptop or StreamYards, but anyway, I'd like to welcome GV3. Good evening, darling. How are you?
I'm good, Sally. How are you? How are you, Mkoma Wilbert?
Good evening, G3.
We are all very well. We're going to be talking tonight about Mugabe, the passing of Mugabe, and whether he was a hero or a villain. Okay. Wilbert has started. I don't know if you heard what he said.
I just speak some few words
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, over to you,
No,
GB3. And
I did what Wilbert was saying. Because since I've never seen a death of a leader, which people they've been so negative about it in the whole world. Especially this so happened to all most detector. I know they say Saddam was a detector, but I don't know if he had been even the day when President Mugabe passed out the announcement of his death. It was all over Western medias, all over in the morning. Uh, some were saying he's a tyrant, he's a detector, he was rigging election. It was all negative. There was nothing good about it. What they were reporting. So to say, I don't know if you say he's a hero, we were just lying to ourselves. Because if we want to hear some of the stories which happened in the liberation struggle, there are some people who have died like Tongo Gara. They've got so many stories which those people were like, even the other day, Mkomatiki was saying he was not supposed to be the leader of the party. So to say he was a hero, I don't know why people are saying he's a hero. In what ways? Because the decades which he was a president in Zimbabwe, I didn't see anything which he achieved, to be honest. Because when we went to school, those schools which we went ourselves were built by Smith. If I tell where I live, where Mugabe built a school, I'll be lying. Because when we grew up, those schools were built in the 70s by Smith when we took over independence. Those schools were there. Those teachers which would teach us were already going in the colleges which Smith had already built. So to say that Mugabe did something for the country, I don't understand where people are getting all those things.
yeah, it's kind of hard for me because now I've got to try and play the pro Mugabe. You two are killing me. You see, for me, the only thing that I can say that Mugabe did that was uh, okay. I'm going to talk about the land issue.
Yeah.
Okay, right. No, Wilbert, please don't choke. Okay, you're not supposed to choke, darling. Um, the land issue. It's something that I will not forgive the white farmers in Zimbabwe for, because the land issue need never have ended up the way it did. The Mugabe and the farmers, the white farmers in Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
sat on a solution for the land for 20 years. No, yeah, it was close to, yeah, it was close to, no, it was 10 something. No, it was 20 years, okay? And it was almost like the white farmers had the attitude of Mugabe wasn't going to do anything to them because they were so absolutely important. Okay. And there were some farmers, which my father included, okay, that sold their property to the government. My dad did that, okay. I really can't tell you about anybody else because I've never sort of gone into it. Um, he did it, I think it was about, if I can remember correctly, 82.
Yeah.
Okay. But the attitude of the white farmers, especially the tobacco farmers, the dairy farmers, and the maize, the ones that grew the crops, okay?
Yeah.
The attitude was Mugabe needed them, okay? So he wasn't going to do anything to them. And Mugabe enjoyed the foreign currency that these guys were bringing in, all right? I mean, he loved that. So he sort of left it alone. Then came along the rise of Changurai, okay? And there was that referendum, and there was some hookery crookery going on there, and Changurai apparently won that referendum, okay? And there was a whole mess up there. The war vets then went to Mugabe and put him in a corner and said, we want land. You give us land, or we are going to support Changurai, and you are going to be kicked out. Okay. Now, had sat down during that 20-year time and sorted out things. During that time, there were people that were going into the agricultural colleges and coming out qualified to take over, well, not to take over, but to go onto land. Those guys that were coming out that were qualified could easily have been accommodated on the white-owned farms, okay? And either become managers or had land allocated to them, whatever it was, something could have been organized there between the white farmers and the government. Nothing was. Until those war vets had Mugabe in a corner in his office, and there was nothing. He could have turned around and said, hey, just get out, behave yourselves. But no, he couldn't, because he needed the power. He'd already had 20 years of it, don't forget. 20 years of the corruption of starting to loot the country, okay, the state and everything else, all the parastatals and everything. So he'd already had that 20 years of the thing of power, okay?
Yeah.
When they said to him, you either let us take the land or we are going to support Changurai and you are out. That was it. Mugabe wasn't going to stand up to them for some unknown reason. Well, no, not unknown reason. He wanted the power, and that was it. Okay, he wanted the complete power that it was going to give him. And he let them loose. And we know what happened. Okay. The pity about the whole thing was that there were guys that were qualified. Families had spent money to send their children or their child, male or female, to the agricultural colleges. And you know that Zimbabwe had some of the best agricultural colleges in Africa.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, Gwibi was exceptional. There were people that were coming from Europe to go to Gwibi.
To Gwebi College, yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was the best in Africa at one time. So all the farmers that they put out, that qualified, that graduated from there, these guys were chomping at the bit to get onto land. And I mean, it didn't take them 20 years to qualify. So there was new graduates coming out all the time. So those white farmers and the government could have organized a situation where these graduates would have had either positions or they would have had land. Okay. Then when there wouldn't have been this 2000 abortion that took place. Okay. Because with the 2000 fight for power or whatever you want to call it, okay, went the production of the country. And we then started having limited production. It ended up with tobacco being the main thing, but I'm sorry, you can't eat tobacco, okay?
No.
It was just a mess. So, yes, you see, you've put me in a very difficult position, you two. Yes, it was a good thing that the people got the land. How they got it was completely and utterly rotten, corrupt, and everything else. And I'm sorry, I blame that on Mugabe and the white farmers. So, hero or villain? Hero a little bit, villain big time in that situation. Okay, right, over to Wilbert.
I think you need to add him. He said he's ready. I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
hang on.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Sorry,
Wilbert.
I had to change to my laptop. Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliantly. StreamYards
Okay.
is being a real dickhead at the moment, excuse my expression. Right, Wilbert, carry on.
Yeah. Well, to me, the issue of whether Mugabe was a hero, I think most of the people's argument that his greatest contribution was to fight for Zimbabwe's independence. People should understand that in that kind of situation, you will have people who will be fighting in that liberation war because they genuinely believe in the cause itself. In our case, fighting to end white oppression and white exploitation by the white colonialists. But you also have people who are fighting, but they've got their own hidden agenda, i.e., the mercenaries. They are fighting not for the cause, they don't believe in the cause, they are fighting for a reward. And in this case here, we had a situation where people like Robert Mugabe clearly did not believe in the cause. Because even before we gained our independence, one of the biggest pillars of the cause of the liberation war was that Black Zimbabweans were being denied a meaningful say in the governance of the country. And that was summed up in the phrase, one man, one vote. And yet, by the time we held our first elections in 1980, Mugabe and his cronies had already decided that there was not going to be one man, one vote. The Lancaster House had said, to make sure that the elections are free, fair, and credible, all the freedom fighters would be withdrawn so that there is no intimidation. And yet Mugabe, that was the one thing he refused to implement. In the first elections, you speak to people like, in fact, people like the late Sifas Musipa have confirmed it in his book. And even Edison Sobro, before he died, he also confirmed it, that the first elections in 1980 were not free, fair, and credible. They had, ZANU-PF had left its operatives in the field, and their instructions were very simple. They were to tell the electorate that if ZANU-PF does not win the elections, the civil war will continue. And so instead of it being a free, fair, and credible election, it was a vote to end the civil war. And in this case, the people had no choice but to vote for ZANU-PF. So clearly, from the word go, we can see ZANU-PF, they were the mercenaries. They had no intention of fulfilling the values of freedom, justice, fair share for everybody in the governance of the country, even the respect for life itself. They had none of that by the time we gained our independence. And if anyone argued that that was just the intimidation, but he didn't mean it. They only had to wait 3 years. By 1983, when the Gukura Wundi started, anyone who had doubted that ZANU-PF would have gone back to the bush and sat in the civil war would have started, got their answer then. Because that started at the next 5 years of some of the worst violence that the country had seen, even during at the peak of the civil war. And from there on, ZANU-PF has consolidated its hold on power. We have a one-party state in Zimbabwe, a corrupt, incompetent, vote-rigging, and murderous one-party state. Now, if anyone can tell me somebody who does that is a hero, then clearly they don't understand what a hero is. And this mixing and failing to separate between somebody who fought genuinely believing in a cause and somebody who fought in the same war but as a mercenary with their own agenda, I think is cause for confusion for some people. But I think after 40 years and with the country in the state it is in, Zimbabweans need to wake up and start looking at things closely and understanding them. And I think it is absolutely vital that people understand that Mugabe is a dictator, a ruthless, corrupt, incompetent, vote-rigging, and murderous dictator. He can never be a hero. And therefore, then to worship him, to call him a hero, is it makes nonsense of the word hero itself. And I think people of Zimbabwe should not be fooled into treating Mugabe as a fallen hero. He is not. And I think this is also the time when Zimbabweans have got to wake up and start making it clear that they are not happy with what Mugabe did, and the fact that the dictatorship, the ZANU-PF dictatorship, is very much alive and thriving as we are speaking right now. It makes it even more imperative that that message is sent through. Because if we send the wrong message and give people like Mnangagwa the impression that they can commit all this crime, destroy the country's economy completely, and will still be worshiping them and still calling them heroes, what is the motive for them to change? They will never change. I would not change. We need change. And if we're going to get that change, we need to say why we need change. And why, if somebody has been doing the wrong thing, we cannot keep on pretending that the wrong things that they've been doing, we sweep them under the carpet and focus on what they did before the war. As if to say what has happened in the last 40 years is irrelevant. It is relevant. We judge you by what you did in the past, what you did in the immediate, in the distant past, and what you are doing now, and the prospects for tomorrow. And to forget to airbrush all the 40 years since 1980 is the most ridiculous argument I've heard from my fellow Zimbabweans on social media and on the internet and in the newspapers and so forth. Zimbabweans have been falling over each other to praise Mugabe. Mugabe is a dictator, or was a dictator, now he's late. And that point must be made, and must be made very emphatically. Over to you, Sally.
Oh, yo. You see, just one quick thing and then GV3. Okay. The people that are praising Mugabe are ZANU-PF supporters. And I'm not going to say the majority of them, I'm going to be a little bit more gentle maybe and say most of them have benefited from Mugabe's reign of terror, okay, have benefited in some way. So yeah, they praise him. The African countries that are having their flags at half-mast and making him into this hero, okay, never had to live under his murderous reign, okay? So yeah, maybe you see that they also say that he is a hero because of the way that he took on the Western world. And that I will go further into at a later stage, why he did that to the Western world. Okay. GB3, over to you. What have you got to say, dear?
I agree with you and Wilbert. I don't understand why all those people who are saying he's a hero, like what you're saying, Sally, they are the ones who benefited from corruption, who benefited from every single Sally. If you think of people who those youth who are youth now in Zimbabwe, they've never gone to find a job. They are not. I'm asking myself, what happened to David Whitehead? Like there was a post, one lady posted that we Zimbabwe used to make a car manufacturer of a Peugeot and the Renault and all those. Where did they go? And if they say Mugabe is a hero, why did he make sure we destroy every industrial in Zimbabwe? While all those manufacturers were in Zimbabwe. What went wrong here? Well, there was employment when we grew up. Everyone could just walk up and go for anywhere you get a job. Not these days, when Mugabe was almost there after 10 years of independence. Things just start to change. And they're saying Mugabe is a hero. The only thing they can say is a hero, he was good at speaking. That's all. Not any. What did he brought in Zimbabwe? Those things were already left by Smith, which were CSC, they were from Smith. David Whitehead, they were from Smith. All these United Bottlers of Zimbabwe, they were already these companies. Our fathers used to work when Smith was the president of Zimbabwe, of Rhodesia. So why are they saying he's a hero? What hero? Where are they making him a hero? Apart from killing people, innocent civilian. How can he say he's a hero while he say we don't know where Rashiwe Gusha is, where Itai Zamara is, and you are saying that person is a hero? In what kind is a hero? He's a disgrace to the country. It doesn't mean whether he was holding the highest office in the land. It doesn't give him that right. That's why now you see the families are fighting with the current government now. There's so many rumors going on, and we know definitely they are fighting behind the scene. This current government, with the way they are running things, they know if they lose him to be at Heroes Acre, that Heroes is nothing of no significance to the country. You see, so to me, he has given people yes, when he was in power, there was oppression, brutality. You can name it. Only people who were in ZANU-PF, they are the ones who were benefit. Only the top ones, top hierarchy, were benefiting. The ordinary citizens who were supporting just forced to buy a card, they don't have nothing in the village. They just survive on as a peasant farm. Nothing. What did he do? Even now, so many rural areas, they don't have tarmac road. I'm asking them. There's no electricity where some of these MPs or ministers in their villages, they never managed to put any electricity, but they were in power. They never managed to put anything for the country. So why did he say it? Because he was a leader of the party, not a leader of Zimbabwe, because he benefited those who were in the party. So to me, he's 100% villain for me. He didn't do nothing apart from a few things which he was embarrassed, like giving scholarship. Some of these he was getting the money from companies who were giving money in in bribe, and then he gave scholarship to those other less privileged who were good at school. But there are only few ones. You see, and all those scholarships were even taxpayers' money who were going to overseas, like the ones who were coming from the Gwebi College you were talking, or Mulez College. They were being sent maybe to UK or to enhance their agriculture skills. But all those money were coming from government. But by doing so, they were giving those people scholarship, and they take 60% in their own pockets. So they didn't benefit anyone. They destroyed the whole country. That's why we see the results now. And I'm cross with the people. They say it is a hero. You can bury me Heroes Acre. That Heroes Acre is not for people who are heroes of Zimbabwe. They are just mere brutality dictators. People who want to dictate everyone, every people. You cannot be free in your own country. See how many people are destitute in foreign land now. And you are telling Zimbabwe it was a liberated country. For who? I agree with Mkoma Ube 100% and Nusali. Yeah, on land issue, yeah, he did. We were supposed to take the land, but the way he did it, the distribution was wrong, totally a chaos. That's why now everything is in a mess. You see, they were doing everything to just benefit their own pocket. Them top hierarchy in ZANU-PF, in all those war veterans. Why did they give them money while they know the government didn't have money to give war veterans money? Why was this? Because they wanted to hang on power, like what you were saying. They didn't want to lose power. By hanging on power, you destroy the whole country, and now everyone hates you. On social media, they are just cursing and cursing, especially the people from Matebele. They are not even very happy. They are even celebrating. How can you be a hero if people are celebrating your passing? It's out of hand. There's nothing much you can. People are just waiting for it to just this face to come, and people are just waiting for him to just. They don't want to talk much about it because there's so much anger with the citizens, the pure citizens who know the truth, who suffered a lot under this regime. So they cannot celebrate and say that you can make him a saint. No, let's call a spade a spade. He didn't do nothing. All the assets were left by the British government. I don't know how many 2 or 3 buildings they've built. Maybe Joiner City or those other ones. They are the few buildings, but the rest were left by the British government. They never developed anything. You see, so why the people they're saying he's a hero? What did he do for the country, which you can name today? That people are happy the government did this under Mugabe regime. Sally.
Yeah, thank you, GB3. Yeah, I agree with everything that everybody said. Okay, I can't. I'm not the person to fight for Mugabe. I'm sorry. I fought against him for 40 plus years. Okay, now you want me to fight for him? I can't. Okay. You look at why he was a hero in Africa. Because he stood up to the Western world. No, he didn't stand up to the Western world. He went when Britain okay, I can't speak tonight. When Britain, as the primary country, called for sanctions on Zimbabwe, okay. For a start, I don't agree with sanctions. I think they are the most ridiculous, cowardly thing that a country could place against another country. But when they called for the sanctions in the first place were only called for after the white farmers and their land had been attacked. During the time of the Matabele land massacre, which was an attempt a genocide in Matabele land, okay? I mean, figures are being thrown around. I'll just go for 20,000 Ndebele people were killed, massacred, okay? I grew up with an Ndebele gentleman, okay, who I called Baba because he was about the same age as my dad. All right, and he when I was old enough, mature enough to accept or to understand what had happened. He came from Chilocho, okay? And he told me a story that has haunted me ever since. In his little village part of Chilocho that he came from, his wife and his children were living there, okay? And he worked for my dad. And then every 2 or 3 months, my dad would give him 2 weeks off to go back. And then once a year, he'd have a whole month, okay? And my dad would pay for his transport. He'd pay for any stuff that he wanted taken home, all that kind of business, okay? So there was a big connection there between us and his family, all right? I mean, before he sent his family to Chilocho, his family grew up on my dad's ranch, and his children were my sisters and mine best friends, okay? Because we lived in the bush.
Yes.
And we grew up all together. Now, the story that he told me was, in this little part of Chilocho where he had his home, okay, the ZANU forces, the ZANU PF guys came in. Well, it was actually, I think it was 5th Brigade, 5th Brigade came in. Okay. And they called a meeting. To the chief's meeting place, okay? They told everybody that all the males of those families that were there had to go to the chief's meeting place, okay? Meeting hall. And all the men went, and of course the young adolescent guys that were around, okay, that were still going to school and everything. And they said no, they wanted all males. So it ended up with men even taking their babies there that were male. They got them into that hall. They herded them into the meeting hall, okay? They closed it off. They put petrol around it, and they set fire to it. And they burnt those men, boys, and babies. Okay? They burnt them. They burnt them to death. And while he was telling me this, okay, a grown man that was old enough to be my father, who I looked on as a second father, okay, and he was a proud Indabele man, sat on the ground crying. The only thing that had saved his son, okay, and he only had one son, and he had 3 daughters, okay, and he only had this one son. The thing that had saved his son was that at the time of, and I didn't even realize it, although I was living in Matabele land, but I didn't realize what was happening. He was working for me, the son. Dingan, he was working for me. And that's what saved him. Otherwise, he would have been burnt alive. And this man told me this story. I had always wanted to give Mugabe a chance. I had wanted him to make Zimbabwe into the jewel of Africa, okay? And I wanted him to stick it to the white man. When I saw that man on the ground crying, who I had grown up in front of, who had read me stories from Aesop fables, who had told me stories from the Indabele history and mythology and the customs and everything like that. When I saw him on the ground crying, that was the day that I said, with every breath I have in my body, I will fight Mugabe as much as I can.
Mm.
And that's the day I decided I will never give this man a chance ever again. Now, you expect a man that did that in his own country, okay, to his own people. His father was in Ndebele, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, he was from Malawi.
He was in Malawi.
Yeah, he's from Malawi.
Well, I heard a different story. Anyway, regardless of that, okay, he at one stage was in Matabele land. Okay, and he tried to annihilate a whole tribe of people under false pretenses, lies. And what happened in Matabele land area was, Matabele land was never ever developed the way that Mashonaland and the other areas in Zimbabwe were.
Yeah.
Matabele land has always been starved of funds, of development, of everything, okay? And yet they have survived. But you can't expect those people. He never ever acknowledged and asked for forgiveness and made some kind of retribution towards the Ndebele people for what he did. That 5th Brigade that he and Mnangagwa and President Shiri organized was trained in North Korea by North Koreans. Their training facility was in Mutare, in the hills there, in the mountains. Okay?
Mm.
And these people were for one thing: to kill Zimbabweans, nothing more, because they never went anywhere out of the country or to the border of a country to fight any enemy. They were there to kill Zimbabwean people, okay? Once they had done their job in Matabele land, what happened to them? Their name was changed and they became something else. So the purpose was to kill the Ndebele people. Nothing else. And you want to make a hero. Africa says, he stuck it to the West. No, he didn't stick it to the West. He wanted revenge on the West because the West went and put sanctions against him for something that in his mind, they had no right to put sanctions against him, because Zimbabwean land belongs to Zimbabwean people, which I agree with. Okay, I agree with that. But there was no man of principle taking on the Western world, okay, for his country. No, there was a man who was out to get revenge. That is why he attempted to stand up against the West. It never did anything good for the country. It never made the West sit back, take a step back and say, oh, we were wrong about Mugabe. Look, the West was wrong in the first place to put the sanctions, because the West has entertained dictators that are 1,000,000 times worse than Mugabe. And they were from Africa. And the West entertained them to the bitter end, till the people actually got rid of them. And then the West flip-flopped onto the other side. The West has actually taken leaders in Africa that were good at doing something for their country and annihilated them and put in dictators, because the West could get something out of it. So, I'm sorry, the West putting sanctions against Zimbabwe was cowardly and it was hypocritical. It was double standards. The way Mugabe handled it was the final straw that broke the camel's back. Because what happened was, with those sanctions that were implemented, the West, well, okay, they were travel sanctions. They were only put against certain members of the ZANU-PF elite, supposedly. But those sanctions affected everything. They affected bank loans. They affected everything.
Mm.
Okay? It crippled the country in the sense of, because ZANU-PF elite had their fingers in so many pies in Zimbabwe, that the majority of businesses couldn't get loans and stuff because those ZANU-PF guys were involved in those businesses.
Yeah.
Okay? So it crippled the country in that sense. There were too many of the ZANU-PF elite. They were involved in too much of the Zimbabwe economy. Okay? So that then ended up crippling the country. My main thing with this is sanctions, those travel sanctions, okay, gave that Mugabe the perfect. It gave him 1,000-carat gold blanket to then turn around and say, my sanctions. While underneath, he was looting the cash out of the country. And it was all under the umbrella of what? My sanctions. So it gave him, the West gave him the most perfect gift that they could ever have given him by implementing those sanctions. They were implemented for the wrong thing. The West, when he was murdering the Ndebele people, okay, and raping and brutalizing that part of Zimbabwe, okay, what did the West do? Where was the West? Where were the sanctions? The West knew what was going on. And what did they do? They turned the other eye. They turned the other way. The only part of the West that actually came up and tried to say something, was the Catholic Church. But even they didn't say enough. But England knew, Britain knew what was going on. They'll even tell you they knew. But they didn't feel that they could do anything about it, or that it was appropriate for them to interfere. Then why the hell did they interfere in 2000? Why? Because there were white people involved. But in the 1980s, it was black against black. So it wasn't appropriate for them to get involved. So, that is why Mugabe was a hero in Africa, because he took on the West. No, he never took on the West. It was revenge for what happened in 2000. Not as a principled person, because for 20 years, he never took on the West. He never took on the West. Do you know the suits that he wore? They were made by a tailor in London. And they would be flown out to him. At one time, the tailor came to Zimbabwe, went to Zimbabwe, to Harare, to that blue house to go and measure him up. From where? From London. His wife used to get stuff from Harrods. She would order online, and the stuff would be picked up by whoever, okay, and brought to Zimbabwe. And you put those sanctions on Mugabe. What happened? It didn't stop them from traveling. It didn't stop them from spending the people's money elsewhere. No, they just went to Saudi Arabia and all these other places. Where did Mugabe die? Did he die in a Zimbabwean hospital? No. He died in Singapore, in a hospital in Singapore, where he went sometimes 2 or 3 times a year for medical treatment, at whose expense? Not his own. He went at the expense of the Zimbabwean people. Why did he go to Singapore? Mandela died where? In a South African hospital, being treated by South African specialists. That's where Mandela, he never went out for medical treatment, not even for 2 hours. He had everything medically done to him in South Africa. Mugabe, from the beginning, when he got ill, went where? Out the country. Why? Excuse my expression, if they're chortling around, block their ears. He fucked up the medical system. All those hospitals, and what was called Andrew Fleming and later became, what was it? Pari. Yeah, okay. That hospital was known throughout Africa for training staff, nurses, doctors, the whole damn shebang. Today, what is it? It's a living hellhole where you go to die. Most of the things, the theaters and all that kind of business don't even work anymore. The medicine and stuff like that, not a bit. You bring your own blood, and you know where you're getting blood from? People are going to Mozambique to get blood and bringing it across the border. How on God's green earth do you do that to a country? And you turn around and you say, my Zimbabwe. My Zimbabwe, when you're running to Singapore at the Zimbabweans' expense for your medical treatment. And you know what? Zimbabwe's final revenge. He died in a foreign country. His last breath as a dictator was taken where? In a foreign country. Because you couldn't sustain, build, and grow your medical system that you had. You destroyed it. You allowed looting, you allowed corruption, you allowed the most horrendous things to happen to it. It ended up that there is nothing anymore. People have to buy their medicine from pharmacies, from whoever they can afford to buy it from, because the hospitals haven't got. You take your own cutlery, your own crockery, your own food, your own linen, and sometimes your own place to sleep, because the beds have been stolen. And you want to say, this is my country. There's not a country anymore. There's a bunch of people that are trying to fight for each breath that they take. That when they've had a piece of bread for breakfast, they don't know if they've got anything for lunch. They don't even think about dinner because they haven't secured lunch yet. People are dying because of lack of simple medications like blood pressure medications, water tablets, sugar tablets. And this is the country that you were proud of, but you were so proud of it that you left it when it came to your health and your family's health. So, hero, sorry. You were the kingpin villain of Zimbabwe. And the Western world helped you. The Western world gave you the soapbox to stand on. The final nail in the coffin of the people of Zimbabwe was put there by the Western world, supposedly to, I've no idea, do what, because it did nothing. It never stopped you and your elite cabal, okay, from getting out the country. It hasn't stopped Mnangagwa from hiring a private jet to go from where? Harare to Bulawayo. But the jet must come from out the country. So, your sanctions, what have they stopped? Nothing. You put the nail in the coffin and you gave Mugabe the freaking hammer. So, hero, sorry, Africa, you know what? Those countries that are saying Mugabe was so wonderful, why didn't you have him in your country, ruling your country for a couple of years and see where you'd be today? Pan-African. Even there was nothing Pan-Africanism about Mugabe. Mugabe was a selfish, self-centered, egotistical maniac. Very well educated, very well spoken. But mentally, he didn't have the capacity to rule a country. Not rule, to govern a country. And now I've ranted, and I'm terribly sorry. Wilbert, over to you. I'm sorry for taking up that, but... Whew.
Yes. As for the point you raised, did Mugabe stand up to the West? That, again, is probably a misconception that Mugabe wanted to sell to mostly the gullible African community, because standing up to the West was seen to be a heroic thing, and hence this passionate about him being called a Pan-Africanist and so forth. But the reality of it was Mugabe was very good at shadow boxing. Whenever he got a chance to say a lot of bad things about the West, about the British, the Americans, the United Nations was one of his favorite platforms to say it. But the reality of it was that it was only saying those things. They never harmed. It's like a dog barking at an elephant, a chihuahua barking at an elephant. Yes, the elephant can hear the racket, but it may irritate it, but other than that, it will never do it any harm. Mugabe was, meanwhile, was using that to hide what he was doing back in the country. This issue of sanctions are the ones responsible for Zimbabwe's economic meltdown. That is all nonsense. The sanctions had nothing to do with Zimbabwe's economic meltdown, because the sanctions were imposed when the Zimbabwe economy was already in serious trouble. And in this particular case, yes, maybe the West had their own motive in imposing the sanctions to punish him for seizing the white-owned farms. But nonetheless, the point they also made that he had failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections was a valid point, and we could not dismiss that. So yes, the West had the choice of when they wanted to impose the sanctions on him. When we wanted them to impose the sanctions on him, they were reluctant. I agree with Sally there that the most opportune moment they should impose the sanctions was during Gukurahundi. That was one of the West's uh, incidences in Zimbabwe's history, and yet the West did nothing about it. But nonetheless, when they imposed those sanctions, even if I do not think they have really been in inconvenience, because I think they would have been even better effective if they'd been international sanctions, as contrast to these individual Western countries imposing those sanctions. And as for the international ones, it was none other than China, Russia, and some of these Eastern Bloc countries, and even some of our African countries themselves, who opposed sanctions being imposed on Mugabe at the United Nations. But to come back to the issue of sanctions, their imposition helps to highlight the fact that we do not have free, fair, and credible elections. And that is a worthwhile cause. And I personally would say the sanctions should be kept on the regime, and they can scream however loud they want. Yes, they've used, SANU-PF has used them as an excuse, but anyone who is serious by now, they should know that the sanctions are not the cause of Zimbabwe's economic meltdown. They are just a wind, a smoke screen being used by ZANU-PF to hide that corruption and mismanagement are the real cause of the economic meltdown. But we need to focus on the issue of changing the regime. And in this particular case, we need to focus on anything that will help force the regime to step down. And the sanctions are doing exactly that, and therefore then they must stay. And to come back to the issue of Mugabe himself, Mugabe was a dictator. He was very good at playing or shadow boxing, particularly with the West, to the amusement of most of our African countries, African friends outside Zimbabwe, who considered him a hero, and even some of the other third world countries the world over, who considered him a hero. The truth is, it was shadow boxing. He never punched any of the Western countries at all. Never. Name one thing you could say, yes, there he did hit the West, and they were punished. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. If anything at all, Zimbabwe he has taken his vengeance on the ordinary Zimbabwean, because it seems like he was using now the sanctions as cover for doing nothing in the country, and blame it on sanctions. While the economy was going through total meltdown, he continued to blame it on the sanctions, as if to say, well, there's nothing I can do because of the sanctions, when in reality, there were sanctions that had nothing to do with it. And most important of all, sanctions had nothing to do with him denying ordinary Zimbabweans their democratic right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. Why should the ordinary Zimbabweans be punished for by being denied the vote just because the West have imposed sanctions on him? What has that got to do with the ordinary Zimbabwean? And that point has got to be made. And I think Zimbabweans should wake up to that reality, that this man was a dictator who rigged the elections and denied them a meaningful say in the governance of the country. There have not been that many opportunities for Zimbabweans to show their disapproval of this ZANU-PF dictatorship. But the few occasions that there have been, and this is one of them, they should go out of their way to show it. There is absolutely no reason why even one single Zimbabwean should be bothered to attend the state funeral that is going to take place this coming Sunday. It's absolute, there's no excuse for it. Why would you want to respect a man who did not respect you? all the last 40 years, he treated you as if you are trash. Absolutely total disrespect. He died in Singapore because Zimbabwe's health delivery system has completely collapsed. And most of it is because the money that should have been going to maintaining our health care was being siphoned to pay for him. In 2012, when Tendai Biti was Minister of Finance, he talked of each time Mugabe went on his foreign trip, and he went as often as 12 times, he was using 3 million US dollars. 3 million times 12. You know, we are looking at $36 million for just one person in this family to go to the Far East. How much would that have, if that had been plowed into even just one single hospital in Zimbabwe? It would have maintained that hospital as a 5-star hospital where not only he could go to, but the rest of the chefs could go to. And when they are not there, at least some of us ordinary mortals could go there as well. If they should want them in an emergency, will be moved out to some other 1-star hospital so that they could occupy that. But no, they decided they were not going to spend money. They were going to spend it in the outside the country. And now all of them have been going out of the country. We are talking as we are talking right now. Vice President Chiwenga is in China. Former ZAPU leader Dumiso Davengwa, he died in India. Morgan Changira, he died in South Africa. All the big chefs, they have been having their medical care outside the country because the country's own health system has completely collapsed. And is he the man? Mugabe is the man who was responsible for it. And to go to the state funeral to honor him is, this is beggars belief. What kind of people would honor somebody who ill-treated them so much that ordinary people are dying of even the most elementary illnesses because he had to have a 5-star treatment outside the country at incredible expense, even now bringing his dead body back to Zimbabwe. It's going to be a bill. We are looking at tens of millions of dollars because there's a whole contingent of high-ranking government officials, NOP officials, family officials who are all going to Singapore. And then bringing them back, they'll probably spend another 2-3 days there, as if to say they couldn't have discussed it, agreed on what they wanted to do here. No, they had to go to Singapore to discuss it. And then they've got to come back. And God knows how much in taxpayers' money will be spent on the state funeral itself. Sorry, Sally, I'll leave that to you. I've got to answer that.
Okay, well, but you can just mute your microphone.
Okay.
Wilbert and I will never agree on some things, okay? But I'll be kind and let it pass. I won't make it into an argument, okay? Because not tonight. Tonight we are here to vent. GB3, I'm just going to quickly share something about when I got the notification about Mugabe having passed on.
Yeah.
It was a weird feeling, strange feeling, a really strange feeling. For 30 years plus, in my own way, I have been fighting against this man, okay, and his regime. 10 years on the radio.
Yes.
The rest, I even did it through a blog that I have, which is now sort of, it's just there. I don't add anything more to it because the place that I was getting the stuff from doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But the blog is there for history purposes. That blog ended up in the newspaper here in Cape Town during the time of the elections when all that violence, what was that, 2008,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, 2000. When he
Yeah,
lost
when
the
they had, yeah, when that ship of arms from China was
that
to
shipment.
land,
Yeah.
yes, okay, here in Durban, and I got that stopped, and it was diverted to Angola, and I got it stopped there as well, okay, and it went back to China. I think a few arms came through, but not many, okay. So
Yeah.
I've been fighting a dictator for more than half my life. I've been affected, not personally in the fact that, yeah, okay, personally, okay, I lost my inheritance from my parents because of Mugabe. I lost my country. My children have lost their country of birth. Their birth has been nullified, so they are citizens of nowhere. And they were born in Zimbabwe, okay?
I know.
So, but it didn't hit me personally in the sense of he personally attacked me. Yes, at one time, me and the family were in danger because I opened my mouth and I said some things in Matabeleland that I shouldn't have said, and the CIO came to visit me, and I told them if they came anywhere near my house, they would have, if they came in, if they thought they were going to get into my house, they were only going to get into my house and over my dead body. And thank heavens for the member in charge at the West Nicholson police station called Luxon. He saved me, okay?
Yeah.
And he stepped in, all right? And so at that time, I was then under the radar, not under the radar, I was sort of there, okay? They realized who I was and every movement I made. I mean, when I lived in Mutari, I was making clothes. I was knitting and sewing clothes for Mozambican refugee babies,
Yeah.
okay, that were being looked after by the church. And they had a place in Mozambique where food and clothing and medical supplies and everything was sent, okay, to this little town just the other side of the border, okay, between Beira and Mutari. And there was a container village that they had created for these children from the Mozambican war, okay, from babies, from women that had been raped by soldiers and everybody, okay, and they were looking after these things, and I was sewing and knitting, and I was getting, you see, look how Zimbabwe was. It was during the time of Zimbabwe, okay, that there was still that conflict in Mozambique and there was still the fallout and everything, okay? So I used to go to they had a wool factory. They had the cotton, a cotton factory. I used to go to the wool factories and ask them for their remnants, their cast off wool, okay? I would go to the cotton place and ask them for their cast off pieces of material. And I would go there once a month, okay, and they'd give me, you know, the big packing boxes that we used to pack our furniture into, like for Biddulph's and those removal companies. They would give
Biddulph's and Swift.
That's right, okay. They would give me those big boxes full of remnants, wool and material, okay? And they would give me about 3 or 4 boxes each every single month, and I never paid a blue bean for it, And I would take it home, and then I would distribute it to the woman that were doing, some were doing knitting, some were doing sewing, and then I'd keep for myself as well so that I could sew for them. And I didn't knit that much. The sewing was easier. So the wool I sort of distributed to all the other women, okay?
Yeah.
And these were, I mean, this was Zimbabwe. It wasn't Rhodesia or anything. It was a time of Zimbabwe. So it was Black women supporting children in Mozambique, okay? And you know what happened? I ended up with a CIO, okay, taping my phone. They put a recorder onto my phone, okay?
Oh.
And every phone call I made or every phone call that came in was recorded. And one day I lost my temper, okay, because I'd had enough. And I knew when they had listened into my phone calls, I knew, because I would put the phone down, you know, the phones in Zimbabwe, the house phones. I'd put the phone down, and then between 2 minutes and 5 minutes later, the phone would disconnect. It would go bing. Now, that's not normal. When you put your phone down, that's it. It disconnects.
Yes.
Okay. But not this one. So I got hold of a guy that was working for Telkom in Mutari. He was a friend of mine. And I asked him, why is this happening? He came back to me and he was in tears. I said, what's the problem? He said, Sally, he said, you are being watched. That's all he said. I said, oh, here we go. So then I made sure that every phone call that I made, the person would put, if they phoned me, okay, or I phoned them, they would disconnect. And then I would have a conversation for the CIO.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Mugabe died, I had so much confliction inside me. I was angry and I was sad. I was angry because this man had just died. Nothing had happened to him. There was no retribution. He had murdered thousands and thousands of people. He had taken people, and this was with Mnangagwa's help, the man that is now in charge in Zimbabwe. He had taken people, abducted them out of their homes, out of their beds, away from their families, of their children and everything else. He had taken these people and they disappeared, never ever to be found again. And this man was allowed to just die in Singapore. Friday was a very strange day for me. Very strange day. How can you just die? How can you have the dignity of being able to die when what you did to the nation, to the people, you have not apologized for, you have not admitted to, you haven't tried to put it right, and you have the guts to just die? I don't know what I expected him to do, but it was the weirdest feeling. How dare you just die? How dare you? After what you have done to the country, you have the audacity to just die? It sounds strange. Anyway, over to you, GB.
I agree with you, Sally, here. Was, to be honest, to look at what positive did he do? Anyone who was standing for the truth, Mugabe, he hated. He didn't want anyone to stand for the truth. He wanted, that's why these people, sometimes I know they've done a coup, it's not a good thing, but sometimes I don't regret the coup anyway. They had to take the men, whatever they did to him, he deserved it.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know the people who took power, they are the wrong people anyway. But the way the move they did to him, he should feel the same thing that he was doing to the ordinary people who was telling him the way you are doing things is wrong. And he never wanted to have any listening ear to them. So now they had to force him to resign. It's an embarrassing act that he sent the letter of resignation to the Speaker of Parliament, which he didn't want to do in the past. That he thought everyone on his side, and he was a bully, and he was saying everyone in the party, he abide by whatever he say. But this time he lost the plot, the man, because he had treated the ordinary people in a cruelty manner that he never bothered anyone. Look like what you were saying, Sally, the way they did to these people in Matabele, in this 5th Brigade. Up to now, they don't want to acknowledge that they made a big mistake. They don't want to acknowledge. They just wish-wash, you know. And they know this is dividing the country, and it's not good at all. Why do they want to divide us because of their wrongdoings? Every time, after every 1 or 2 months, this issue is being raised every time. There's someone who is stepping someone's toe on this issue because they don't want to apologize. These cowards, they know what they've done, including him. Now, up to his deathbed, he never mentioned any name of apology. He didn't even want to admit. Up to today, and they can bury him anyhow. But most people, they are not even happy. Most people in Zimbabwe, they are angry. They are hate side 100%. Because the moment, if people they had freedom of speech and they hear out the national paper could tell the story, they will never show those nice pictures on the front page. They will really narrate the evil things which he did to the ordinary people who are suffering now. Look at what they did with the Muramba Trina.
Yeah? Exactly.
That's a cruel. I've never seen an inhuman man who can do that to his own brother, his own sister, taking sheikhs. Those people, they didn't have money to build houses. As a government, why did you put a contingency plan to give them stands than to just go and get a bulldozer and start tearing apart their own belongings? Then you said you are a leader, and you said you've got a hearted people. What the hell is that?
Okay. What does Maribatrina mean?
They said they were removing a clutter around squatters. They will say Mbari and other people, they've been squatter camp now. We need to remove all these things because it's just dirty in the city.
Hang on. Let's get proper translation. Cleaning of shit. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Excuse my expression, but that's what it was.
That's what it was, yeah. But how did it come to that, Sally? It's because of this.
But the GB3, the shit were the people. They weren't talking about actual cuck. They were talking about the people. The people were the cuck. Okay.
Yeah.
How can you class people as they're human beings?
Yes, definitely. But this so-called Robert Gabriel, we never see anyone who wanted to oppose him as a human being. I think now, but like what you were saying, Sally, I think he used to see us as animals.
Worse.
He never thought that these people are the other people which he's leading. They can say any word to him and he will listen.
Never.
Only those people who were around him, those cruel men, including the current vice president now, is the worst of all culprits. You see, you were in that government and he still stand by those things, and now you want to be said, I'm a leader, I'm a new dispensation. Which new dispensation? Who are you fooling? Who do you think he was born yesterday? We don't know what was happening behind the scene. We know everything. The moment we try to speak, you shut us down. You want to put us 6 feet down. We know that you have been killing from day one, from 1980 up to today. You are the killers of everyone who try to change things for the better of everyone, including him himself, who has died now. And some people are ululating and they said he was a true statesman. Which statesman are you talking about? Do you know what a statesman means? Huh?
Come
A
on.
true statesman for what? What did he do than to build that mansion to hire Chinese to build a mansion in a thing in Borodale? For what? What did he need that 50-bedroom house for? What?
And who was paying for the people that worked in that place? I mean, they had how many staff? And who was paying for that? They weren't paying for that with the stolen money. No, it was the people who were paying for that.
It was the ordinary people they were taking the money from civil servants.
And what was the answer of ZANU-PF? Okay, when Mugabe, at his last speech, had promised 2 million new jobs. And when ZANU-PF and a ZANU-PF official was held to account and said, right, ZANU, what about the 2 million jobs? He said, yeah, but Mugabe created 2 million jobs. And the guy that was interviewing said, where? He said, no, well, they're street vendors.
And said domestic workers, rubbish. How can you open your mouth like that and you said you're a minister and you said he created domestic workers? Yeah?
Street vendors. Never mind the domestic workers. Street vendors were part of the job.
The 2 million jobs he promised to the people.
You can't even get tax from them, okay?
No. That's why
So you had 2 million jobs created, okay, supposedly, which you couldn't even get tax from.
No.
So that's 2 million.
And now that's why Mnangagwa is trying to steal that money from these ordinary people, poor people, and say I'll get 2% from whatever transaction you do. But they forgot that their father created that 2 million jobs for street vendors, and he didn't never mention that they were going to tax them. Now they want to take that 2%. Sorry on them, shame on them.
Because there's nothing more to loot. And what's happened to Wilbert? Wilbert has been keeping very quiet.
I'm listening.
No, Wilbert has been given a ticket to go to ZIMBABWE.
You know, I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
He's on the list of a special delegation. Wilbert is there as we speak now.
What do you mean? I'm giving a speech, okay, at what a hero he was, all right? So, there, to you, all right?
Wilbert.
Yes,
Wilbert, come on.
I want you to mention, people are saying he's a hero. Can you mention me once, Sally was mentioning all these colleges. Can you mention one college which the Mugabe regime built? Forget about Gwebi College. Forget about those. Can you mention one college, teachers' college or training institution, which is now in Zimbabwe, which is they are saying Mugabe built with this current government?
If we go down that route, I honestly think we have actually missed the point, because even if we can name one building or one school that he built, are we saying that that makes him a hero and that obliterates all the evil things that he has done? No, it doesn't. And that is the argument that most people are failing to appreciate here. The point here is that Mugabe, what he did, he had absolutely no commitment to the freedom that he pretends. Those people say he liberated Zimbabwe. How can he have liberated it when the same people now have no, some of those people have not had even one single democratic vote?
Yes.
In the last 40 years, 37 years that Mugabe was himself in power. None. So what was it we were fighting for? This issue of, he gave the people the land. Most of the land that was seized from the white farmers was given to Mugabe himself and his cronies.
Yes.
He himself is reckoned to have as many as 13 farms. Even some of the people who had nowhere to go and had settled, he was following them up and kicking them out. Even at the time when they could not, they hadn't even harvested what they had produced. This is the man we are dealing with here.
Look the way he treated those farms, those people in Mazo where Grace wanted to put some animals. Look the way he treated those people who have been there for more than 2 decades, and he wanted to chase them like chickens. And they said
any farmer who has seen be successful, all of a sudden these chefs wanted that farm. His wife will come in and take it, or some of these other big chefs will come in and take it. Some of the farmers whose farms were seized, they bought those farms after independence. It's not a question of they inherited it, they must have chased our black ancestors off that land. No, they bought that farm after independence with the knowledge of the ZANU-PF regime. But this is a regime that Mugabe wants. Some of the things that some people don't appreciate on the land issue is that in the turn of the last century, the late 1990s, Mugabe was running out of loot to give to his cronies. And land was the only asset that was now available. And he had to seize it to give it to his ever-demanding cronies to appease them. We have had a system, political system, that was built on patronage. And one of the other things that I really want people to understand who in Zimbabwe, and I think this is an important point that they should understand, is that what we are doing here is by praising Mugabe, we are actually allowing the present dictatorship to look at it and saying, well, the people still love us, regardless of all the evil things that we have done, regardless of all the economic meltdown that we have caused, the people still love us. And that is a big mistake. People made the same mistake 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago now, when they joined in the march to for the Mugabe to be forced to resign. That was an internal ZANU-PF matter.
yes,
And people made the mistake of thinking that, oh, this would,
they were used.
were used. But you were used. You should have seen it. You should have seen it coming. Everybody knew there was a serious factional fighting within ZANU-PF, and that the Mnangagwa is not a Democrat. You know, after they took over, he started talking of this new dispensation. What new dispensation? Nothing had changed. You know, he promised and went on to rig the elections. That is one we should have learned something from that. And if we are going to repeat it this coming Sunday by going in numbers to attend Mugabe's funeral, that is the most outrageous thing we could do.
Is he being buried at Hirosega?
I think it's almost certain that he'll be buried at Hirosega.
But he said he didn't want to be.
Well,
he created. That wasn't a hero's acre. That was a ZANU-PF elite murderer's acre. That was it, finished. The only person there, okay, that's there that I find very insulting, that shouldn't be there, is Nkomo. I find that very insulting.
Mm.
Okay, he shouldn't be there.
You know, Sally, they use him Dalaway to just cover their atrocity and to just put icing on the cake. They knew what they were doing. These are evil, cunning people, Sally.
What messes me up, GB3, okay, is this business of Mnangagwa was going to be a new dispensation. How can you say, I call him the murderer of Baghdad, okay, because this man was just a murderer. Mnangagwa operated in the shadows. That's where he worked for Mugabe. Mugabe came up with the ideas. Mnangagwa implemented them, put them into real life. Okay. This guy was a murderer, professional murderer. And you think that within 2 weeks he's now suddenly become a democratic angel? I mean, where on this earth have you been? You are there in, this is where the youth kills me. You are there in Zimbabwe suffering. My nephews in Zimbabwe have never held a proper mainstream job. Never. And the one is in his 30s, the other one is in his 20s. They have never held a proper mainstream job. Okay?
Mm.
And you are there suffering like mad to feed your families, to get, you manage to get breakfast. From breakfast, you have to now organize lunch. From lunch, you got to organize dinner. You got to organize for the children if you've got children of school-going age. You've got to organize school fees. You've got to organize uniforms. You've got to organize. These people are scraping below the bottom of the barrel. And yet you stand there and you tell me, okay, that's an old ancient gogo to give Mnangagwa a chance. And you insult me and you threaten me because I turned around and said, how can you give a professional murderer a chance? Where have you been if you haven't been underneath Mnangagwa's intimidation for 40-something years? Where have you been? What world do you live in? The youth of Zimbabwe, I'm terribly sorry, are so misinformed. They do not even recognize or they do not admit to the history of the country while they were living in it. This is what disappointed me the most, was that the youth, the ones that are standing on the backs of the people that liberated that country, not Mugabe. Mugabe never liberated anything. It's the ordinary people that stopped their education, that gave up their families, that gave up their lives and went to war. Those are the ones that liberated the country, not anybody else. And how many of them are dead? Nobody knows where they died. And the youth has the guts to turn around and say, give Mnangagwa a chance. Give ED a chance. A chance to do what? Murder again? But this time as the president? Oh, wow, brilliant. There we go. We're going to get very far. And once again, and then I'm going to shut up, I will tell you that until the people of Zimbabwe get up, find their courage, and take ZANU-PF on until do or die. That's the only way you're going to get rid of them. The only way. Maybe Mugabe's dying will release those people that have been under this cult spell. Because even though he hasn't been in power for nearly 2 years, he has been a presence. Maybe now, without that presence, any affiliation that they felt to him, any, what you call it, he liberated the country and all this kind of business, maybe that will go, and maybe these people will eventually wake up and decide, right, enough is enough, we can't go on like this. I'm hoping, but time will tell. Right, over to GB3.
Yeah, Sally, you're 100% spot on here. Whoever saying he rebalated the country, they don't know what they're talking about. They should have asked Joshua Ngomo before he died and Josiah Tongogara before those people died, and they will narrate what actually happened when they were in the struggling of this war against white thing, white oppression. They never did anything. Him and Mnangagwa, we know. Ask Teach, he would narrate.
Yes.
Teach narrated us the whole truth about this issue, which these people they don't want it to come on the limelight because they know they will be on the spot.
Yes.
Yeah, they never did anything for this country. That's why they wanted it to go to the dot box, like they didn't care about it. They never cared about anyone in the country. They were only caring about their own safety, own families. How can Mugabe take his family, like Hubert was saying, and they are given $2,000 US dollars allowance for what? On taxpayers' money.
A day.
A day.
Yes.
Can you
so
imagine?
If they're out the country for 10 days, how much is that?
That's the 20,000 in it. 20,000.
Yeah.
For nothing.
Per person.
Giving Bona, giving Chatunga, giving Bella. For what? Giving Grace that amount of money. While hospitals, they are crumbling. Parenyatwa, like what we were saying, it was one of the best hospitals, not in Africa. I've got some nurses who are here, who from Ghana. They were trained in Parenyatwa. They are working here in the UK. They said that was a fantastic hospital when they came and get trained. They are nursing diplomas and all this. Yeah. And now people, they are saying our father is a hero. Who do you know is a hero? Even those people you have buried. Even I can even say what's his name? The one, that guy from Zobo was even better than because he was telling Mugabe all the time that you are wrong. You can't do those things like that. And he used to hate the men all the time that he was criticizing him. He's the people who are heroes, who are trying to open our eyes that this man is not a good man. You have to wake up early, otherwise he will destroy you.
But he even destroyed you even if you woke up early. Look what he did. Look what he did to Rex Nongo.
Just like that. He just take them like that.
Yep.
Look what he did to Mzenda. Mzenda wanted to retire when he was over retirement age, and he forced him to die on the post. What a cruel man he is. Mzenda wanted to go and rest. He said he doesn't want to. His capacity, he cannot offer anything. But he make him stay as the vice president because he wanted to continue looting, taking that money to Singapore and Malaysia. We think we don't know those things. And he's saying this man is a statesman. Look the way he ran away from the deteriorated hospital, Parenyatwa, Harare Hospital, Mpilo Hospital, Gweru General Hospital. All of these hospitals, they've been wrecked because of him. People are dying because of cholera. What a shame to us. And we said we are independent. What do you mean it's independent? You were not supposed to even independent as. And you said you took what independent did you give to the people if you are killing them? Yep. And they said we got independent in 1980. You start killing us in 1980, Mugabe and the regime. There's no two ways about it. He didn't get independent for us. You were just putting us in prison one by one. Until now, we are all locked up. That's why it make you happy. And Mnangagwa, he was making breaking out of that. That he brought my Mugabe to bury his mom in a private jet. What?
In a private jet? Did you see that jet? Yo! Hey, no.
Yeah?
I mean, that jet. That was like a house on wings.
And that man. What was he going to do? Was he going to wake her up? Nothing. Why didn't they use the normal plane which everyone can use and come the next day? What was so special about it?
Why must they use a plane? Why couldn't they go by car?
Yeah.
Like other people.
Yeah, like other people. Bus. And that money was going to be put some, because those plane Sally, those people, they need their money in cash. Because they know us Zimbabwe were bad debt. They don't want any credit note from us.
Yep.
They said pay in advance before the plane starts moving. It's 1 kilometer and all this. And now they were Mugabe was breaking that. This new president, he did well. He gave me in a Dreamliner. Oh, I've never been in that plane. What the hell is that? Eh?
And that was just to go from one town in Zimbabwe to a village in Zimbabwe. That's all.
And that man could have been used, like what you were saying, and improve one of the biggest hospital we have. And people could be smiling now and getting. Can you imagine? People now are leaving Bulawayo to go to Harare for a chemotherapy machine, which the ones in Bulawayo, they are all damaged and dead, gone. And you say they are a new dispensation. What are you doing for the country? You are just following the footsteps of your granddad who has just passed now. You are doing nothing. So why should we call you heroes? Heroes of what? They are not heroes, these people. Whoever is calling them heroes is benefited his pocket. You have been given a land, and we know you've got 5 plots, 5 acres of these farms. You are holding farms. Ransom people, you are chasing people away, ordinary people who want to survive. Because you are saying, doing how can we do a birthday party for a guy like him? 14, and want to make that a holiday day, Mugabe's day. For what?
Yeah. You know, there's so much, okay? There's electricity. 18 hours the country spends without electricity.
In the dark city.
That what has happened is EcoNet have had to have bought Tesla Poweralls to put into their stations, their substations, so that at least the people they can still do transactions using their mobile phones, because there's no money, physical money in Zimbabwe. It's all this cyber money. I don't know what you call it. Okay. And it's all done through the mobile phones and that kind of business. So EcoNet went and they started installing Powerall, Tesla Powerall things in their substations and that. Okay. Mugabe, in all the years that he was in power, could not build or I don't know what you would call it, supplement, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The electricity supply that was there. He never did anything about it. Okay. There's so much. I mean, anybody takes over Zimbabwe, okay, they're going to have to rebuild the country. Seriously, they're going to have to rebuild the country from the ground up because there's nothing left.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wilbert, over to you. And I think we are now going on for 1 hour and 48.
Yeah,
okay?
no, yeah.
I think we must get sort of closure. Okay, this one lady has said here about probably Bitcoin. I don't think it's Bitcoin. I don't think they have brought Bitcoin onto the Zimbabwean financial plane. It is US, they're still under the US dollar thing, but everything is done with mobile. You can't go out to the bank, okay, and say, right, give me $5 from my bank account. You can't do that. Everything is done with this, what do they call it? I knew it before. Okay, can't remember the name. It's all just this imaginary money that's floating around supposedly in cyberspace, okay? But it's US dollars because that's the currency of Zimbabwe. That's how they trade and everything, okay? They're trying to bring the Zimbabwean dollar back, but you can't because there's not an economy. So it's done all with this. It's supposed to be US dollar, but it's not physical US dollar. It's all this. What do they call it, Wilbert?
I know which one. Notorious or something.
I can't remember the name for it, okay, right now, but it's all done through the mobile, through your mobile phone, all your transactions, paying of your bills, all this, withdrawing this imaginary money, okay.
No, that one is electronic money.
Yes, electronic money, okay. There's no physical money that you can hold in your hand unless it's bond notes. I don't know, RTGs or RGLs or whatever they call the damn things.
Yeah, RTGs, yeah.
Yeah, okay, which is fancy toilet paper. It's nothing else. Okay?
Nothing else, yeah. Only plastic money they are using in the fake money anyway. Because there's
Yeah,
no money.
there's another word. It's not electronic money. There's another word for it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So, Wilbert, can you sort of close
Up, yes,
the
please.
closing? Yeah.
Well, my only closing remark will be to ask all Zimbabweans out there to put on their thinking caps for a change and reason and think for themselves and not listen to some of these. I know some of the ZANU-PF cronies have all been singing Mugabe's praises to the high heavens. And unfortunately, our opposition leaders have also joined in the chorus, singing Mugabe's praises. Mugabe is not a hero. Mugabe is a corrupt, incompetent, vote rigging, and murderous tyrant. He is a dictator. If you can't tell the difference between a hero and a dictator with all the information you have, we are in serious trouble as a nation. We will never make any progress unless people start putting on their thinking cap and think for a change. Supporting Mugabe and giving a hero's burial and sent away is the last thing Zimbabwe should be doing. Mugabe is not a hero. Mugabe is a dictator. The dictatorship is well alive and thriving right now. And the last thing we want to do is give it the impression that we love the dictatorship. We must, for once, show that we do not love the dictatorship. We want meaningful change in Zimbabwe. We want the change to change the regime itself. We want those who are responsible for the corruption, mismanagement, the murders, the rapes, and so forth that have blighted the country and reduced it to a laughingstock to stop. And we can only express that by thinking, by voting with our feet, and not be manipulated like cattle with a ring in their nose, led around and be shown around and be told, oh yeah, stand there and start praising Mugabe, line up the road to the airport so that we can all sing praises of Mugabe as his coffin is taken down the road and so forth. That is all ridiculous. I think it's high time Zimbabweans start really showing that they've got a bit of gray stuff between their ears. That is my message to the people of Zimbabwe. And I hope come this Sunday, we will not see people trooping and attending this dictator's funeral as if they genuinely worship the man. The man made a mess of your lives. 90% of the people are out of work. Hospitals have completely, health services completely collapsed. All those things is because of the ZANU-PF dictatorship. Mugabe was at the very center of it. And if you cannot see that, then you really have got a serious problem. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Sally, and thanks, GV3, for the participation.
GB3?
Yes, I thank you, Sally, for this topic. That's a good wake up for the people of Zimbabwe to know and to stand for their own rights. People shouldn't be silenced. People they are open. They have to say whatever they want and they have to say the truth. ZANU PF, stop intimidating people and try to force people to come for that burial, as Wilbert is saying on Sunday. Stop busing people. People, they don't want to be bussed like what he did recently when you bus the people to Mnangagwa's World Forum in South Africa. We know you bus people from Harare, and we have got some friends and relatives which you forced to bus that charter, that tourism bus you used for people to go and bring those what they call them posters said ED is a new dispensation, is a new Zimbabwe. What is that new Zimbabwe? Who are you fooling? Eh? Who are you fooling? And you're taking people from their own houses and say we will provide you with the transport
And food.
and food and accommodation, and no nothing. They will come, they spend 3-4 days there, 1 week and nothing, and they don't give them nothing. What the hell are you doing? And you're saying you've liberated people? Huh? That's what that will be a hero for you. You'll never be a hero. I know you'll be trying to go to Murewa, to every village, to bus people to come for that Heroes Day. We know that ordinary people, they don't want to come, and you force them. Stop that abuse of human life and see reality on its own. If you want to bury him with your 2 people, just bury him with your 2 people. The rest of Zimbabwe are tired. They are looking for change. They are looking for better lives, and you are not doing anything for their good. So stop abusing people and frog marching like what Ubet is saying all the time. You want to frog march everyone for this funeral. Shame on you if you do that. And no one will never forgive you for that you are trying to do to the people of Zimbabwe. People who are not liberated at this time, and you said we are independent. Thank you, Sally, for this wonderful topic.
Thank you very much to Wilbert and GB3 for giving us their time. And thank you very much to Donna and Eritrea that have been following us and commenting. It's absolutely brilliant. And Donna, you've given a fantastic suggestion. Okay, and her suggestion is, yes, let him force you to go and attend the funeral. Let him force you to cue the route of the funeral. But as his coffin passes, turn your back en masse.
Yes.
Turn your back towards, that is your final salute. That is within your power. You are forced to go. That's fine. Go. But turn your back as he passes you. As that coffin passes you, turn your back. Donna, that was absolutely brilliant. Fantastic idea. And I think, and it's something that the people can do, okay, without actually rebelling, because they're not rebelling. They're there, they've been ordered to be there, they've been bussed there, they've been hijacked there, whatever it is. But as his coffin passes, turn your back. I think that is brilliant. I think that is really, because he did his final insult to the Zimbabweans by dying. He wasn't allowed to die. Not yet. I wanted retribution. I wanted some form of him humbling himself before the Zimbabwean people. That's what I wanted. And we didn't get it. He went to Singapore and he just died. How dare you do that to a people that you betrayed? You betrayed everything that they are, that they were, that they had, that they believed in. You knew very well that Zimbabwean people were raised to honor and respect anybody that was older, and anybody that had a position in life. For them to speak against you, well, you see what's happened. Very few do. You misled, you betrayed, you violated, you abused, you killed, you misused, everything most evil that you could think of, you have done. And then you go to Singapore and you just die. After what you've done to them, what you've done to my children, you've made them countryless, citizenshipless. And simply because of their color? No. You didn't have the right to go and die without fixing our country that you destroyed. You treated it like your private ATM machine. And when you had taken everything that the people had, you took their lives, you took their dignity, you took their pride, and you even took their souls. And you had the audacity to just die. You didn't have that right. You didn't have that right. You took everything that we were and everything that we are, and you spat on it for your own pleasure and your own gain, not for the country, not for the people, for yourselves. And your murdering boss is now in charge. People, wake up. Please wake up. The youth of Zimbabwe, stop insulting the backs of the heroes that you are standing on. You are only there because people, ordinary povo, gave up everything to fight for freedom for their own country. And you insult them by asking everybody, commanding everybody to give a murderer a chance. You owe those dead heroes and those heroes' family, you owe them a huge debt. You owe them the freedom of Zimbabwe. Get out there and get it, and stop following people just because they glitz and glamour and fantastic words and everything else. So you blindly follow them. You are not your own individuals. You are shackled to bauble, shiny things and fantastic words that have no foundation. The words that had the foundation and the people that had the truth and the honor and the dignity, you are trampling on their graves and you are spitting on them. The youth of Zimbabwe owe a huge debt to the elders of Zimbabwe, the povo people, not the government. The povo people, not the MDC. The povo people. They owe them a debt, a huge one. You better start repaying it. You better start freeing our country. You were given it. You know the history of it. You grew up during all that time of murder and slaughter and violation and women being raped in the streets. And you never lifted a finger. You threatened people because they told you who you were asking to give a chance to. They told you what the person was like, so you threatened them. And now you want to say, get rid of ED. Darling, it's too late. You get rid of him. You put him there, you get rid of him. You owe the dead heroes, the dead povo that gave their lives for the freedom that you have got. You owe them a debt. Start paying it. Start paying it. And to the people of Zimbabwe, your final word about Mugabe will be to turn your back on his coffin, on his funeral. Turn your back. Go there en masse and turn your backs. That's your final word. That'll show that dictator regime, murdering, abusive, raping regime exactly what you think of them. You don't have to utter a word. All you've got to do is turn your backs. May your gods go with you. Thank you very much to Wilbert and GV for giving me the time. Thank you to Donna in Eritrea and anybody else that was listening. Yes. It's a great honor to have you taking part. I know I'm not very good at keeping up with the comments that were going, and I apologize for that. It's not you, I'm ignoring you people, please don't think so. It's just that I get so worked up and so into the moment, okay, that I forget about the comments. But I thank each and every one of you. We are truly honored to have you here. Thank you very much. And to Zimbabweans, turn your backs. Say it in Shona, please, Wilbert and GV3. Wilbert.
Yeah, I thought you can say it in Shona and Debele there.
Yeah.
Say it in Shona is kana
fratida.
Yeah. Kana coffin ra kupfura kana mukange maitwa kunzi muende ku National Sports Stadium woeva ku Heroes munongotarisa kumadokero morisiya richipfura musambotarisa kana kuti musazvinetse regai vava mamondi dzivigane dzega munongozvitarisa mozvifuratira voenda musamanikidzwe kuita zvamune musingade nekuti nyika haisiriyo inopa vanhu upenyu.
Thank you for that, and we will see you here next week the same time, 10 p.m. my time, and I hope you will be with us, GD3.
Yes, I will be. Definitely.
Good. I know Wilbert will be here. That I can depend on.
Are you going to be there on Thursday as well, GV3?
Yes, this Thursday, yes, but the last Thursday I was supposed to be there, but with this xenophobia, the local people, there was one person who had his brother injured there, so we had to go and consolidate here. So it was a tough moment. Two brothers were attacked there in South Africa.
Yeah. You see, I wanted to cover the xenophobic attacks here in South Africa.
We'll do it next week then.
Yeah, but next week we're going to also say something about the funeral. So we'll do something about the funeral because the funeral is on Sunday.
Yes.
And then we'll do stuff on the xenophobic attacks here, which is still going on. I have warned GV3, all of them, so many times. I've spoken about it on radio. It never stops here in Cape Town. It is a daily thing where foreigners are attacked.
Every time. Now I believe it. Yeah, it's an everyday thing. You have to just
in Cape Town, it is an everyday thing.
You have to watch your back.
And I live just down the road from one of the places where Danun, I don't know if you've ever heard of a Danun. Okay, It started out as an informal settlement. In other words, as shanty town. Okay, it's now huge, and it's got ShopRite in it. It's got Checkers in it. It's got banks in it. It is a massive, big, high density area. Okay, and it is as violent as you can. Oh, it is terrible. And every day in Danun, not just Danun, Philippi, Khayelitsha, Harare, Guguletu, all these places, okay, foreigners are killed, foreigners are burnt, their shops are looted, okay, every single day. Philippi, I think it is the murder capital of South Africa. So every day foreigners are killed or their businesses looted here in Cape Town. So this business of xenophobia, I've told you, every day it happens here. There is not a day that goes past that it doesn't. This is a thing in South Africa. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't understand it, but that is what South Africa is. I mean, every single crime is blamed on a foreigner. There are no South Africans that commit crimes, okay? There are no gangs in Cape Town that are South African. They are all foreign. This is the rubbish that South Africans preach. Anyway, that's for another day. Here, you see, you're getting me off on another rant. Oh, anyway. Thank you very much to everybody once again. May your gods go with you and turn your backs. Good night, Zimbabweans. See you next week.
Thank you. Good night. Bye, everyone.